Alright, oddballers, welcome to the Oddball Rattery. It is 10:30 on July the 15th. I have some little girlies. I have Miss Juliet. And I have Miss Rhea, who is being a squirmy girl. She's a squirmy girl. And these are two of our mothers. This is one of our pinnacle mothers, so to speak. This is some of our best babies actually came from her. So Miss Juliet here was a little bit of a hussy girl. She got in with our mean boys and had mean boy babies, which is why her litter size was so small we had it adopted out before we even got it on an adoption live stream. So we're hoping for her next pairing that she will be more into the good boys instead of the bad boys. So I used to sneak out of my cage and go hang out with the bad boys. You do hang out with the bad boys, didn't you? You're a naughty girl. So today we're going to talk about some sicknesses. Our last video, we had some people bring up some questions about things like bumblefoot. Of course, we always talk about upper respiratory infections. That's like the most common thing talked about with rats and rat care. If you're on any rat forum or rat page, you'll find that anything that seems remotely out of the ordinary, immediately everyone's first thing is upper respiratory infection. Carry him to a vet immediately. And you know, I get it. I mean, we want people to take their rats to vets and take care of things, but you know, we also need to be more objective in understanding what causes illnesses in rats. Come here, Julia. Get your butt over here. Should have got some boxes for you too. What causes illnesses in rats and things to look out for. What actually is the problem? And what does upper respiratory infection look like? What causes it? What causes bumblefoot? What causes tumors? What causes sprains, breaks, gloving, all forms of things. You know, we want to discuss these things. So I think we'll start out right the door with bumblefoot. So bumblefoot is not a common issue with younger rats. It's predominantly older rats, and that is because just like old people, older rats, their skin gets really thin. And so what actually ends up happening with bumblefoot is an older rat will stand on a bar or a very hard or a rounded surface or a angled surface, and it will kind of make a cut in the skin because the skin is so hard, especially if they're heavier. The heavier the rat, the more likely of bumblefoot. And this is not just in wire cages. This is on any hard angle. This is on the sides of cardboard boxes, the sides of baskets, anything. Hi, Rhea. She's feeling scared right now because of the light. Anything that comes to a hard point. And so what happens is the rat will stand there on that point. Their feet, which I don't know if you can see, but their feet are very. Come here, Rhea. You know what? I'm going to move Juliet. Juliet's not as fussy as you are. But as you can see, their feet are very fleshy. And so there's no fur protecting their feet. And so what happens is that hard angle causes a cut because of how thin their skin is. Normally it's a micro laceration. It's not even enough to bleed, but it's just enough to break the skin. And so then this older rat has this wound that's not going to heal quickly because it's an older rat, and the skin's weak to begin with. And so what happens is as it walks across its cage, it walks across its fecal matter, its urine, bacteria builds up inside it, and thus causing the bumblefoot. Bumblefoot is a bacterial infection. I believe it's most commonly in what I researched was a form of staph or streptococcus. Is the most common. Now there's other forms of bacteria as well as there's fungal. Fungal is an option that they can get in their feet. It's 100% possible. Get your butt back over here. You're supposed to be displaying for the alls. So that's the idea behind bumblefoot. So in a lot of cases, you'll hear people say, well, if you've got cages and you don't have meshing or something soft on the cage floor, your rat's going to get bumblefoot and die. Well, this is not necessarily true. So it can happen on any hard point, regardless of cage or not cage. The biggest thing is that you want things like their food, their water, and a sleeping space to have soft spaces. Those are the most places that they're most likely to congregate and to stand for a long period of time at one angle. Those places you want to have something soft laid out for them to kind of stand on, especially your older, heavier set rats. And what this will do is it will protect their feet from those micro lacerations and thus causing the staph infection or the fungal infection to not even set in. So those are things to look at. And again, that's the whole point of this conversation is we want to sit down and open your eyes to everything. So it's not a one-size-fit-all thing with rats. And I hope that that's what you guys get out of our videos. It's, the last video we showed personalities. Each rat has their own personality. Like even now, you have Juliet here. Her personality is 100% different than Miss Rhea. Now, both of them are very sweet rats. But they're different personalities. They have different likes, different traits. Juliet, you're not getting down. Go. I know you want to get to the boys, the bad boys. You just had babies. You need time to breathe. Relax, lady. Jesus. So if you have an older rat, especially a heavier set rat, you do want to make sure that you soften any hard surfaces. Keep away from points. Rounded surfaces are better. And so a lot of cages have very fine rounded wiring, and that's why they can nick the skin pretty easily. So as long as the places where the rat's going to mainly stay has soft bedding around it that they can stand on while they eat, while they drink, your rat will be fine. As well as good cage hygiene. That's the big kicker. You want to make sure that the hygiene of your cage is in good order. If it's not in good order, you're more likely to get things like bumblefoot. It's more likely to happen. So that's a little bit about bumblefoot. And I would suggest anytime you research, you hear something about all these forums or these groups and these people saying, bumblefoot, Google Scholar it. There has been tons of documentation on Google Scholar in research, predominantly dealing with rats and their behaviors and their illnesses and their sicknesses. So yes, the next thing that we're going to talk about is that mean old upper respiratory infection. So this is the normal story. Someone comes in and they're like, my rat's leaking red stuff from their nose. What do I do? And the people go, it's an upper respiratory infection. Get them to the doctor immediately. Okay. So rats produce a blood red liquid that they will excrete from their mouth, their nose, and their eyeballs. It's very scary when you give them a bath, especially if they're a leaker. That is my shirt you're chewing on. Especially if they're a leaker. We have one particular rat, Mr. Riggs. When he gets a bath, he comes out looking like we just murdered him because he's a Siamese, so he's white, and then he leaks this red fluid from his eyes because he hates baths. Completely hates them. So that excretion is not necessarily a sign of an upper respiratory infection. There's a lot more traits that go with an upper respiratory infection. So that is a sign of stress. And it could be any stress. It could be stress in their habitat. If their habitat's not clean enough, or they don't have enough appropriate hiding spaces, they can get scared of the environment around them. They will begin to stress out. They will stop eating, and they will start to leak this stuff profusely from their orifices. It's a sign of stress. It's a sign of something's going wrong in the environment. We had recently our bad boys about 4 months ago, Mary was looking at them. It smells like someone pooped. Yep, you pooped. Don't step in it. I need something to pick it up. Hang on. We have technical difficulties. We have rat poop. Everyone else gets up on this table. No one poops on the table. You get on the table and you poop on the table. You don't smell it. It's poop. Weird rats. They're little girls. Get back here. So Mary's looking at them. She's like, they don't look so good. And I'm looking at them and I go, well, they look a little lethargic. They look a little pale. They're definitely leaking. I can't remember the name of the material they leak. I think it starts with a P or an N. Not mycelia. That's like a fungus. It's like it's a cilia of some sort. It's like a mucus. It's a mucus basically. So what happens is they'd gotten stressed out. Why did they get stressed out? Well, so I start looking and I start investigating and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got an upper respiratory infection. This is our first time getting upper respiratory infections. I don't know what to do. We're gonna have to get a vet. We have to carry these guys to the doctor. We gotta make sure they're okay. And so I started looking at them and I started checking their lungs and their breathing is just fine. It's shallow and they're lethargic, but there's no burbling. There's no sounds of rasping, kind of like mucus buildup inside their lungs. So I was like, what could be wrong? And so I started looking and I noticed the water bottle. The water bottle was filled. And then I'm like, when was the last time I had to fill this water bottle? When was the last time I filled this water bottle up? And I started thinking about it and I was like, it's been a good week since I filled this water bottle up and there's no water drink from it. And so I started looking and I reached my hand in and I hit the ball on the water bottle and guess what happened? The ball didn't move. We'd gone a week without water. So, and we do daily checks for water bottles and things like that, but we're not normally looking for a faulty water bottle. Never had a faulty water bottle before. Let me tell you, we check now every single time we fill the water bottle up, make sure it ticks. Make sure. What was that about? She goosed me. I'm clean. She decided she wanted to move my fingers. Come here, both of you. Get your butts over here. Anyways, it was a water bottle. They were dehydrated. And so they were stressing out because they were dehydrated. And so that mucus is running from their nose. They're lethargic. They're exhibiting all the other signs of upper respiratory infection without the sound of phlegm in their lungs. So I replaced the water bottle with two brand new water bottles, sitting on the side because they're big. These are big boys, and I wanted to make sure that they weren't fighting over water. They hit those water bottles like, crazy. Boom, right on top of it. Mouths in it. And after about 15-20 minutes of drinking two big water bottles down to almost nothing, they were back to their normal selves, happy perky. And so these are the things you run into. And that was, oh my God, is it upper respiratory? Everyone says it's upper respiratory. So no, I decided I would look into what consolidates upper respiratory system. So an upper respiratory infection is caused by two things again, bacteria or fungus. Now, the inhale of fungus spores can come from various different places. Yes.
There's a virus too.
Is there a viral? I didn't think there was a viral.
I think there is.
We'll look into that. April's saying there's a virus aspect to it. I believe she could be right because I have heard of rats getting sick and whole colonies being wiped from a mysterious sickness that causes them to have breathing issues. So it could be viral too. But your most common are bacterial and fungal. So normally the fungals are from being wet and fungus setting in their environment, and so they breathe in the spores, and the spores irritate their lungs, and boom, their lungs become inflamed, and they begin to have issues. The next is damage through ammonia. And so if you know anything about bacteria or what's known as flora, microbial flora, bacteria is everywhere. So we are covered with strep, they are covered with strep, staph, we're all covered with bacteria, and in most cases, there's a good balance to that bacteria. They're not always trying to kill us. They're opportunistic things. And so what ends up happening is one of these little girls or one of these little rats will breathe in something that damages the lungs, lining of the lungs, and the bacteria that's naturally in the lungs will find those wounds and begin to grow in it rapidly. When it does that, that's where the infection itself comes from. So another thing that can cause upper respiratory infections actually is mites. Mites are capable of causing upper respiratory infections because they drain the energy of the rat so much that its body has a hard time fighting off the natural flora that's in their body, and so they begin to build up large quantities of bacteria, and then boom, they've got an upper respiratory infection. So what you're looking for with an upper respiratory infection is several key factors. So one, we're looking for that mucus discharge, but it's not just from the nasal cavity, it's also from the eyes and the ears. When they are very, very sick with an infection, they will leak it out their ears, their nose, and their eyes. You're also looking for lethargia, coughing, wheezing, and an undesire to eat. Apparently Miss Quinn is making a fuss over there.
She's stuck in her toy ball. Nope, never mind, she's out.
Of course she is. So, so those are the key things that we're looking for. We're looking for, one, does my rat have any mucus coming out of their orifices? If it does, how much of it? Where's it at? Now, second, is my rat lethargic? Is it just laying in the cage? Is it labored in breathing? Does it look like it's having difficulty breathing? And you'll see it. If you watch videos of rats with upper respiratory infections, they have labored breathing because it's a lot like a bronchitis. Yes, you want to say something?
Miss Katerina, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize.
Miss Katerina, yes.
She wants to know, what about sneezing?
Okay, so it's interesting enough, rats will sometimes sneeze if they have upper respiratory infections, but not all the time. You gotta remember, rats are animals, they're mammals. And what are mammals capable of being? We're capable of being allergic to things. I've got a dog that's allergic to wheat. Anything grain she can't have. She gets it, she immediately begins itching. If it goes prolonged, she will break out in a yeast infection on her body. I mean, so rats can have allergies. They get little dust particles in their nose, and it itches and it tickles, and they sneeze. Same thing goes with you. You get something in your nose that doesn't feel right, you sneeze that stuff out.
What I like to do is, one of the first things I want to check, because how common it is, at least spoke about in regards to upper respiratory infections, is check their chests, which, if you could demonstrate how we do that, you listen to their lungs while they breathe, and you're listening for like a raspy kind of rattling sound that you would expect if you had some fluid on your lungs, or you had some irritation or sickness. And
the way they breathe, you don't really need a stethoscope to hear their breathing. They breathe very deeply and very rapidly. So it's very loud. So you can hear their breathing when you put their chest up to your ear. And so you will hear a rattle. So it'll kind of sound like a...
Yeah. Or if you ever had a cold and you're coughing a lot and you feel like that mucus is on your chest, and you know how that feels and sounds when you're coughing, that's what you would hear in them. Correct.
And so that's another sign. But that's not also necessarily a sign that they have an upper respiratory infection. They're animals. That means that they're susceptible to a wide range of different types of sicknesses and illnesses, just like people. They have allergies. They have the capability of getting colds. Rats can get colds. If they get too cold, they will start leaking mucus from their nostril. They'll start coughing and sneezing. They're capable of getting the common cold or the common cold. So there's a lot of things to look at for between a allergen, a common cold, and an upper respiratory infection. And the largest thing that makes the difference is, one, the rattling in the chest, two, the lethargia. When a rat has an upper respiratory infection, it is painful to breathe. Don't you dare get your butt back over here. I see what you're doing, Juliet. You're trying to get back to the boys. You want get your butt up here. Stay up there. You too, Rhea. We'll put Rhea up there, her up there. So yeah, so those are the main things that we're looking for. We want to see, are they lethargic? Are they having trouble breathing? And you can tell when they're having trouble breathing for upper respiratory infection. Their their chest will rise and kind of like tap and back down, and rise and tap and back down. That's them having trouble breathing. So that labored breathing, lethargia, and the phlegm buildup, those, boom, immediate signs of a respiratory infection. Get them to a doctor immediately. Your rat sneezes, and we had one rat that sneezed all the time. All the stinking time she sneezed.
So much so that Mary named her Sneezy.
Correct, yeah, she was named Sneezy. And she never had an issue. She never had any mucus buildup. She never had any rattle in her lungs. She just, from time to time, would just get little sneezing fits and sneeze. Be done with it. So, that's it. So, again, we're not saying, well, just because your rat, is sneezing, it means it's fine. What we're saying is gauge it well. You know your rat. These are your pets. I know all my pets. I know what they act like when they're normal. I know what they act like when they're sick. I know the differences. The same with my rats. I know the differences in their characteristics and their personalities. If your rat is truly sick, you will know it because they will display signs that show that they are sick. At which point we do advise get them to a vet as soon as possible. Do not try to self-medicate. We have a lot of experience with a lot of other animals medicating and prescribing antibiotics and such. So as a breeder, we tend to err on that side of caution. We'll imperialistically go for rounds of antibiotics for any of our animals, our cats, our rats, our dogs, our snakes, our ferrets, our rabbits, anything, if it seems like, okay, there's a possibility there's an infection, we will run in a round of antibiotics through them just to be on the safe side. Imperialism is always better than no move at all. Another big thing that happens frequently that most people think is bumblefoot, but it's not, is actually sprains. Yes?
I'm sorry, I just got to move a little bit and this is too close.
Oh, okay. Is actually sprains and twists. So every now and then you'll get that one rat, and that's the rat that likes to fall off of things or high fly, climb the cage, miss their jump, and then the next day they come up and their foot is the size of a pecan. Hazel was phenomenal at this. Those swell, they go purple, they look like bumblefoot. They look like it, but they're not. So bumblefoot keeps swelling and is warm and tender to the touch, versus a sprain will swell to its largest portion within 2 to 3 days and then eventually start going down. So now there is a potential that the rat could break a bone. However, their bodies are designed to jump from high places and to do weird, crazy rat things when they feel it's necessary. Should they be doing it all the time? No, some of us shouldn't be doing it all the time. But they do. And their bodies are designed to do that. Their bodies are designed to escape quickly if they need to. Stand up there, Ray. Hi, Ray, Ray. Anyways. So the best way to treat a sprain or a dislocate, and more commonly it's a sprain, is isolation. Now you'll do the same thing if you get bumblefoot. So say your rat's foot swells up. So we're very much on the concept of let's be imperialistic with it. So the likelihood of it being bumblefoot is very low, but in case it is, we want to make sure that we are taking care of it immediately. And so we immediately do a cleaning of the rat. The rat gets cleaned, The foot gets cleaned, it gets scrubbed, it gets antibiotic spray put on it, and then it gets put into a bin with a paper towel and a little bit of bedding, food, and fresh water. And then every single day we will change the paper towel and the bedding out so that there's always fresh bedding and fresh paper towels, so that in the event that it is bumblefoot, we're not increasing the bacterial count, we're decreasing the bacterial count, and we're allowing the rat to naturally heal upon its own thing. Cleaning the wound normally immediately flushes out anything with bumblefoot. Cleaning the wound with bumblefoot normally within a day to 2 days, you should start seeing results. With the sprain, however, you're looking at a week to 2 weeks. So you'll clean the foot, and you'll realize it's not swelling after the fourth, or that it's swollen, but it's not decreased after the 4th day. So now we know it's a sprain. And the best thing is to keep your rat as immobile as possible. No big cages, confined spaces.
No climbing.
No climbing. Limited movement.
And if possible, because we had a young rat, Mary's rat I think it was, who had fallen in the cage and sprained her paw. If you can manage to get a little small cup and put the paw in like warm water for a few minutes to help with the swelling, that's also very good to do too.
Yeah. That was Shimmer.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was told to us that was bumblefoot. It looked like bumblefoot.
We thought it was too for a while.
So we're like, yeah, I guess it's bumblefoot. And then we said, well, let's research bumblefoot. It's like, there's no way this is bumblefoot. Mm-hmm. She doesn't fit the old. She doesn't fit the overweight. She has none of the qualifications to have bumblefoot. It's a sprain. And then we started treating it like a sprain, and guess what happened? Week and a half came and went, and there she was, just as good as new. Foot healed up. She went back into the cage with the rest of the girls, and she was fine. So yes, bumblefoot is and sprains look a lot alike, and most people who have never experienced it and participated in it or seen it firsthand will immediately say that that's bumblefoot and that's the worst thing. Carry your rat to a vet, because if you don't, you're a bad pet owner and you don't deserve to have rats. Well, that's not true. Not everything with every animal is immediately carried to the vet, right? You need to gauge those situations and know. First, check your environment. Always check your environment. Your rat is distressed. They are leaking mucus. They are lethargic. The first thing you should always do is check your environment. Make sure your environment is clean. Make sure your water bottles are functioning. Make sure you fed them. Make sure it's not one of those things where you forgot to feed them and now, they're kind of in a little bit of a starvation mode. They're rats. They have high metabolism. So, a day or two without feeding could mean life or death for them. That's my ear, Rhea. Hi. So another common thing that people like to talk about and give concern for is tumors. Oh, does this look like a tumor? Oh, is this a tumor? You'll know a tumor when you get a tumor on a rat. It is not a, oh, is this a tumor thing? It is, yeah, that's a tumor. You can feel it. They're normally fluid-filled or flesh-filled. They're normally in obscure places. Females mostly get them on the mammary glands, but they're capable of getting uterine cancer and cervical cancer as well. And so those body parts begin to swell and build up fluid and sometimes flesh, and you'll know a tumor when you see a tumor. Starts at the size of a pea and swells to the size of a baseball at its worst point. From time to time, you will have this happen where you will see a swelling on your rat, and it's normally overnight. So one morning you're playing with your rat, and it's ha ha ha, lovely dovely rat, he play with my rat. You pick her up the next morning, and then boom, what is it? Right here on her neck somewhere, or right here on her back, there's just this goose egg on her neck or back. And it's fluid filled, and it's tender, and she doesn't like it when you touch it. That is actually an abscess. So when you peel back the fur, you actually will, in the center of that abscess, find the point of puncture. Now this could be between being scratched by one of their fellow rats, being nipped by one of their fellow rats, maybe they scratched their self on some or on a cage somewhere, a sharp edge that you weren't where it was there. And so that bacteria, the same bacteria that causes bumblefoot, begins to fill inside their skin, inside the wound. It begins to fester, it swells, and it looks like cancer. But you really need to check it, verify it, and you'll see it. Normally it's a nick, a little bite or a little cut inside the skin. And when you squeeze it, you'll see that it kind of pulsates. Best way to do that is to warm cloth of water, clean that area very well, the wound specifically. If you want to use some saline, you're free to use saline. Clean the wound, and then separate the rat and put them into a clean environment. Do this normally once or twice a day where you clean the wound. And about 2 to 3 days, that injury will go away. That injury will go away. It'll heal on its own. Or it'll rupture and it leaks out, and then it heals on its own again. And then it'll heal on its own. So those are things to look out for. The next thing is bites. So you get a new rat, and that rat is a hyper-aggressive rat. And you put them with your sweet little oddball girls or boys, and that rat just tears a hole in the side of one of them. Depending upon the degree of wear and how much meat is showing, will depend upon if you need to carry them to a vet or just allow them to nature to heal. Rats are very resilient creatures. They're used to getting cuts and scrapes, so their skin heals rather quickly, normally within a week to 2 weeks for large gashes. So you're looking at depth. If you've got a rat that's got skin flap hanging over and a chunk of its muscles hanging out, you better get that baby to a vet, ASAP. If you've got a rat that's got a gash, it's about that big, right there, about that long and about that wide, but you really can't, it seems superficial. It's not really bleeding, more leaking. That's superficial. The way you treat that is very simple. Once again, segregate the rat from the rest of the rats, put them in a clean environment, apply Neosporin.
Not Neosporin.
No, not Neosporin. What was
Vaseline.
Vaseline. Apply Vaseline to the wound so that it keeps out any foreign particles, anything like that, from coming in and abscessing, and you just let the rat naturally heal. It normally heals within a week to 2 weeks, and then the injury will be gone. It scabs over, and then it'll be like it was never there. Of course, if it is longer than about an inch and wider than half an inch or a quarter of an inch, definitely do seek medical treatment. That is a large gash. Without sutures, it could heal incorrectly and actually cause suffering to the animal.
And of course, if you're trying to self-heal with a superficial wound and it's getting worse, so what you're looking for is improvement or a steady injury for no more than 2 or 3 days after treatment. If it isn't healing or it gets worse, then you have to immediately carry it to a vet as well.
Correct, yes, because then you caught it too late. Infection is starting to set in, and that rat needs antibiotics. So you have to carry them in, get your antibiotics from the doctor, and then start treating your rat with the antibiotics. Normally they'll give you a antibiotic topical cream to put on top of it, and it'll be the same thing. Rats quarantined in paper towel, loose bedding on the paper towel just to kind of absorb up in the urine, and then bedding changed daily until the injury is healed.
Now you have to make sure to be meticulous on a clean environment because you don't want any other infection to set in.
Correct. You don't want any infection to set in. You want it to be as clean as possible, so daily cleaning is required. So with all this being said, these are the more common things that you hear about on the forums and all the groups. I guess the question would be is, how do you have happy, healthy rats? How do you have rats that don't have upper respiratory infections, that aren't going to get bumblefoot, that don't really get sprains? And that's by cage management. Manage your cage weekly. We do wipe downs every week. We do pressure washes once a month. We do detail cleanings once a month. Beds changed every week as well, so this is the clothing. For all our rats. Our bin rat, or the mother bins, the cages, the bad boy cages, those are all done on those are all cleaned on a weekly basis. We clean every week. Good cage maintenance will allow you to find any potential snares, pitfalls, any sharp edges in your cage that may need to be handled or taken care of. It will allow you to decrease the amount of bacteria that is located inside your cage, which is what causes bumblefoot, upper respiratory infections, a variety of other abscesses, as well as infections and wounds. So the cleaner the cage, the safer and happier the rat. Introducing rats correctly, making sure that you don't have an aggressive rat that's going to not bond well with a submissive rat, all that fun stuff. Those are how you keep your rats safe, happy, healthy, and clean. I can say for a fact that we have never had a rat that has had an upper respiratory infection. We are meticulous in our cleaning, meticulous in making sure that there is no super potent urine smell, no super potent fecal smell. We want to make sure, because if you can smell it, the particles are in the air, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kicker. If you smell it, even a hint of it, there's particles in the air, and that can damage your lungs and your rat's lungs. So we really want to be meticulous. Do you have any questions, anything you want to add to it? Yeah, you.
Oh, I thought you were asking.
Well, no one else has said anything, so.
Well, we had one question, which is pretty awesome. As far as questions go, I'm kind of right there with you. We kind of learn all this together. But yeah, definitely you want to make sure your cages are clean. If, unfortunately your animal is hurt or injured or sick or anything, the first thing you want to do is get it into a sterile, clean environment and make sure the environment is, constantly being clean, because you don't want to make anything worse.
Correct. And you want to look and watch them, see if their characteristics are off.
Yeah.
If you don't see any recovery within the first 24 hours, immediately go for a vet. Now, don't get me wrong. If you come in and your rat's eyeball is hanging out of its socket, don't quarantine that rat. Take that rat immediately to the vet. If your rat's laying there and it's not moving and it's having trouble breathing, don't quarantine that rat. Take that rat to a doctor immediately, ASAP. It's all about knowing your rat's temperament and is your rat functioning like your rat would normally function. Again, we know our rats and our animals very well. We know how they should be behaving, and any duration off of that, we immediately start to question and investigate. Because we want to make sure that we have happy, healthy rats.
Sorry, I came really close because they're finally staying still.
Good.
So we have another question coming in from outside sources.
Okay.
The question is, it's not super medical related, but they're wondering if, whoops, Nisha, you moved my camera. If, oh, now I just lost it. If rats sleep with their eyes open.
Sometimes they do.
Do you know why?
A defense mechanism. So you got to think about it. In the wild, rats need to be able to respond to a threat in an instance. And you've seen how some of our rats sleep. Like, I can poke Julius, and Julius don't move until I poke him like the fourth time. And even then, he ain't quick to move. He don't care to move. So in the wild, they'll have scout rats or rats that are watching out for the colony. Then will basically sleep with their eyes open. You can always see what's coming in. So I would say a rat that sleeps with their eyes open is probably a skittish rat, a very scared rat. It's not capable of, or that's afraid of its environment, and it's trying to just keep itself safe as best as possible.
All right, I'm gonna back out. Here's a picture of said rat. See if I can do it. I don't know how well it's gonna work. Oh, hold on, let me turn that off for a second. There we go. So I'm gonna hand you it so you can see it too. Did it go dark? Okay. That looks scary, I'm not gonna lie.
He may not be asleep. He may just be relaxing. Some rats will relax like that, like they're dead. I've seen some videos where the person's rat just laying there on its side, its arms are all stiff and stuff. They're like, oh my god, I think it's dead. Meanwhile, it's breathing, but it looks like he's dead. So, hi girls.
Does any of our oddballers have any more questions before we end it for the night?
Nothing?
So far, nothing. We also have a bit of a delay, so just give it a few moments.
Well, I'll go ahead while we wait for that. I'll let you guys know. So, if you haven't been watching the page and been following the page, we have added a Patreon. We want you guys to start liking and sharing our videos with others. If you feel so, to kind of help us with the oddball mission, which is to bring the most unique and odd pet store into existence. That'd be great. Miss Katrina, we want to give you a shout out for being our first patron, and they're starting with the Bell Starter package. We're going to be putting unique adoptions from our Pittsburgh and Palmerton locations on there, so that you'll get exclusive adoptions firsthand that the rest of the individuals who are on the page wouldn't necessarily get. And we're doing this to we're doing this kind of to help build us up, so that we can invest in more cages, get a website up and running, and eventually reach our goal of becoming a full-on pet store chain that cares more about our animals than we do about making billions of dollars. Anything? You look like you're reading.
I'm trying to, because I want to, before we go off, there's still no questions. Before we go off, also bring up the our little special event going on right now with the naming.
Oh, that's right. So we do have a special event going on right now with our naming. You saw the little dove girl that we pulled out last video. So we have a post on the page with names, 4 names to pick and vote. I think right now Ash is in the lead.
Did you not read it?
I didn't read it, no.
We're not supposed, it's supposed to be the air of surprise.
Maybe the air of surprise, is it not?
You think Ash is in the lead?
I think, I don't know, I haven't been looking.
I haven't checked
I
since
could
earlier.
be wrong. I'm getting chewed out for this. I'm probably wrong. I don't know. I said I think. I think means I think. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Either way, I have rats on my shoulder.
Yes, you do.
Either way, so hop on over to that link, cast your vote for the name of the new little dove girl. We're really interested to see what she's going to make. She's got a pretty sweet temperament, and bonding is going very well with her. We had to put her back with some of our baby girls because she's a little too skinny for the girls' cage, and was slipping out and hanging out with boys, particularly the bad boys, like someone else. I wonder who that could be, Juliet. So yeah, so definitely check that out. We're giving first pick on adoptions, and we do have, as of this moment, 3 paired up. We're going to be pairing possibly 2 to 3 more mothers before we leave. We would love to have 6 litters ready to go for you guys as a big hurrah before we hand over the reins to Mary at the Palmerton branch and Carol in Pittsburgh, at which point they will continue the Oddball franchise here in Pennsylvania, and we will sail away to North Carolina, Well, we'll start up there. So yeah, definitely like, follow, share our videos. I know that I've talked to several individuals. They want to know about food, bin versus cage versus tank. And so we're all going to give all that. I'm holding off on the food one because I'm trying to find all the research documentation that we went through the first time we were researching what was going to be best for our rats' diet that was economically acceptable and at the same time going to actually provide them the best nutrition. And so I know that here in the U.S. we have Oxbow, but in comparison to what British brands out there and the homemade British stuff or stuff that British people have out there, you know, it's far better. And that's another thing. We've entertained the idea of making large bulks of of mixed rat food, but the problem is that it costs a lot of money, and unless we're able to redistribute these bags of food, it's just not feasible for us to purchase all the ingredients necessary to do that. So if you guys would actually start buying food from us, and that's something that you would like to do, hit us a message, let us know. If we could get 20 to 30 people that would be like, you know what, yeah, I'd buy a 50-pound bag of rat food for about 40 bucks, we would start manufacturing this stuff like crazy, because I've got the bulk vendors for it. It's just, it's expensive, and, you know, spending thousands of dollars for bulk ingredients that will go bad before even our rats eat them all, it's just not feasible. So if I knew I had a large enough base that would buy from us, we would start making custom-made rat mixes and special diets for
Cat with the rats.
Special diet for rats. And yeah, so definitely like, share us, follow us on Patreon. We have a Kickstarter as well set up. We decided to go hardcore with this, so I'm getting all my documentation set up for the food stuff. Hopefully we can get the other webcam working. It was giving me static, and get it configured so that we can actually stream on a computer with the webcam, and that way April, while we're doing these videos and talking about things, can actually bring up documentation live for you guys to look at and see through, that we've highlighted why we feel that we've taken the nutritional route that we have, how it benefits our rats versus other rats. And so, you know, we just want to be as informed as possible. I hope to do that today, but I didn't have time between playing with the kids. I run an online radio station, so I had to go help some broadcasters there, and then, you know, now we're doing our videos. So with that being said, guys, Saturday there will be no video. We will be out of town, but Sunday, hopefully Sunday, Mary and I done forgot his name. Jeff starts with a J. It's like Josh, not Josh, Jeff. Hopefully Mary and Jeff can come in on Sunday and they can participate with a live stream with us. And maybe we'll have the camera set up so we can grab Carol. We can have the 4 of us with April in the background because she doesn't like pictures. There you go. That's all you're ever going to see of her. And we can talk about their plans for breeding and their excitement and, you know, every place that they're going. So once again, guys, thanks for listening. Please like, share, follow. Hopefully we'll start posting on YouTube as well. And thanks for supporting us. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you Sunday.